It's the Old Man in the Woods show. Let's talk about life. Let's get real. Slip on your earbuds, turn up the volume in the car, or watch us on YouTube. Let's go.
Mike Saunders is the Old Man in the Woods. Get ready to go straight to the truth of the matter. It might be something a guest has to say. It might be something straight from the Bible. We are in pursuit of the truth. Take it away, old man.
Work while it is day. That phrase originates from John 9 in chapter 4, where Jesus used it to emphasize the urgency of fulfilling his divine mission before his death. The day that he speaks of represents the limited time that he had on earth, and night symbolizes the period after his death when he will no longer be physically present to perform his works. This phrase serves as a call to action for believers to seize the opportunity to serve God and spread his word while they still have the chance. You say, well, Mike, I'm not a preacher. Doesn't matter. Well, Mike, I've never been to seminary. Doesn't matter. Well, Mike, I'm not qualified. Well, that's what you say. God qualifies the unqualified. It's written all through the Bible. He takes the lowest of the low and uses them to do the things that only the highest of the high could do. The context of John 9:4 is a conversation between Jesus and his disciples about a blind man. The disciples asked if the man's blindness was due to his own sin or his parents. And Jesus said, it's neither. And then he said, I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no man can work. And then he healed the blind man. Just as Jesus emphasized the limited time he had to fulfill his divine purpose, you, as a Christian today, are reminded by this to actively live out your faith while you got the opportunity. This means sharing the gospel, serving others, living according to Christian values in a world that often feels chaotic or spiritually dark. I know that you know what I'm talking about. The night for you could symbolize your personal limitations, like your health or your time or life circumstances or big challenges within society, that things that urge believers to act before the opportunities pass. Then you've got to seize opportunities. The context of healing the blind man highlights that Jesus used every moment of his life to demonstrate God's power and love. For us today, as Christians, this translates to using our daily opportunities. It might be an act of kindness. It might be crying out for justice. Or it might just be sharing your faith, all to reflect Christ's love. In this time and era of social media, global connectivity, and rapid cultural shifts, look, I can pick up this phone right here and I can call anybody in the whole world if I got their number. It's just that easy. And in a day and age like this, you can leverage these platforms. I'm talking to you through a podcast right now. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts. It's all over the place. And I'm encouraging you today through this social media. Imagine if Jesus would have had social media. No, don't imagine it. He does have social media because he's got me and you and thousands and millions others who can use it. Complacency. Challenge your complacency. Encourage believers not to delay or procrastinate in their spiritual responsibilities. It's easy to put off faith-based actions, but John 9:4 calls us to prioritize our mission now. And then hope amid the challenges. The healing of the blind man shows that God's work often occurs in the face of suffering or misunderstanding. Today, Christians face skepticism, division, or persecution. This passage inspires us to trust that God can work through difficulties to reveal his glory, encouraging perseverance and faith-driven actions. When Jesus healed this blind man, just like almost every opportunity he took, it flew in the face of the religious leaders of his day. There were times that he did things specifically to highlight a point of where those leaders had gone wrong and where they were abusing the people. Those leaders would have never healed that blind man. They walked by him every day. He had been blind ever since birth. They walked by him every day. They could have done something. They didn't. They let him sit there and beg. But not Jesus. And not us. We're not called to walk by. We're called to do something. So every Christian's day is finite, yeah, and life is temporary. And you don't know when your night will come. You don't know when you will be caught with some disease, or you don't know where you'll be put in circumstances where you can't do anything. You don't know if you'll wake up in the morning. You have no idea when your night will come. We need to live intentionally, cultivating our spiritual disciplines like prayer and reading scripture and serving others, knowing that their time to make an impact is limited. In summary, work while it's day calls us to live with purpose, live with urgency, and live out our faith, engaging in God's work despite any of the challenges or the distractions. I'll finish up with a story that I heard just recently. Have you ever heard of a guy named Mordecai Ham? Mordecai Ham, turn of the century tent preacher. He wasn't licensed by any organization. He wasn't tied to any denomination. He simply knew that he had to get out there and bring the word to the masses. And so somehow or another, he got his hands on a tent, and somehow or another, he got his hands on some chairs, and he set up that tent in place after place and hauled those chairs around and preached. Mordecai Ham, wonderful, hard-hitting preacher from the turn of the century, right before the Depression. And that's not who I want to talk to you about. I gave you that wonderful introduction because who I want to talk to you about is one of his ushers who remains nameless. Nobody remembers this usher's name. But one day, while Mordecai was preaching his heart out, there were two young men, teenagers, who were walking down the thoroughfare there, and they heard the preaching and walked over to the tent and looked for a place to sit down, but there weren't any chairs together. There was a single chair here and a single chair there. And they stood at the back for a few minutes and then turned and walked away. Well, this usher, he wasn't having it. He saw the two young men, and so he ran after them. He left the tent and ran after them and said, no, come back and I'll find you two chairs together. And so he made people scoot down and move over one, or can you sit here? And he found two seats side by side for these two young men, these two teenagers. And both of them gave their lives to Christ that day. And one of them was Billy Graham. Billy Graham has probably preached to more people than any other person who's ever lived. You know, I'm not throwing shade on Jesus. And Jesus doesn't mind me saying this, but because he chose Billy Graham to be who Billy Graham was. And more people came to Christ through Billy Graham than probably has come to Christ through anybody else. But you know who's responsible for all of that? That usher. He was working while it was day. He didn't let the fact that there was only single seats here and there in the meeting bother him. He quietly went about his business and had some people move and scoot down or whatever he had to do and opened up those two seats. And not only was Billy Graham one of those teenagers that got saved, but his best friend got saved that day too and stuck with Billy for the rest of his life. Not as a preacher, not as a musician, not as anybody else, but he stuck with him the rest of his life, serving as the facilitator. He told Billy, he said, you've got the calling on you to do the preaching. He said, but I got the calling on me to make sure that you get from city to city and have everything set up and ready and waiting for you. And that's what his friend did for the rest of his life. So he was just as important as Billy because he got Billy to the places. All because of an usher who worked while it was day. So today, I want you to think about working while it's day. because your night's going to come. All of us, our night's going to come. There's going to be times when we're shut down. There's going to be times when your boss at work says, I don't want you preaching up in here. But there's more than one way to preach, isn't it? You can preach through your actions. You can preach through your due diligence of doing a good job. And you can cause people to want what you have. Work while it's day. Work while it's day. And while you're working, while it's day, you know what I'm going to say right here. Be kind to somebody, because everybody needs somebody to be kind to them. I'll see you next time. Old Man in the Woods signing out.
Thanks for listening in today. Look for us on the YouTube channel as well as all the major podcast platforms. Remember, Mike's books are all available on Amazon under his pen name, Michael Saunders. There's a link in the description. Enjoy one today. See y'all next time.